Good morning, I'm Cody Henriksen. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can enhance our existing color view project so we can make it so it does a little bit more. We're going to make it so we can add a button to it, and so we can change colors and use some basic logic, and how we can also interact with it by using the idea of the @state modifier so we can look at the properties of a struct and do some cool stuff with that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our project and go from there. Again, we're creating a struct right here. We named it color view. It's of type view. And we have right here in our data member section, I have my two additions that we're adding to this. We're adding the @state private var button color, which is of type color, and we're assigning it the value of .yellow. And another one, @state private var clicked, which is of type bool, and we're assigning that default value of false. Again, one of the things we really like to do when we're designing a struct or a class is we always want to keep our data members together. I like to keep them up at the top so they can easily be identified and seen as to what the default values are when we first start looking through the file. The first thing we're looking for on these @state is we have that @state modifier. This is so we can reference it and access it when we're talking about the actual object itself. We do want to make sure, of course, that when we're talking about state, that we keep them private. When we're talking about a data member, 98% of the time, we want that to be private data because it's something that belongs just to this individual instance of value, right here, of this case, color view. But when we're talking about that, again, we want that to be that. We use the colon right here. We're using the explicit identification, saying this is explicitly a color type. And then because we're using the that explicit typing, we can simply use the .yellow rather than color.yellow for the syntactic sugar, so we can actually assign that directly right into that. The same thing there on the private var clicked. We're assigning that of type bool, which means we can assign it as false. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the structure of this. Again, noticing for the very beginning right here that all these things are left aligned on the same level because these components all belong to the color view struct. They're all part of that same thing. So when I'm within that, they have the same visibility, that same reference. The scope of them is all at the same level. So we had the sum view that we've already taken a look at for body. We're going to come back to that in just a second to see how we've modified that. We also added the create random color last time, so we can add a color to that and do some more with that. We'll be enhancing that again as well as we go through the year. But what we want to look at now is the first thing we're adding to this is the update method. Now this is a private method because it's only going to be seen inside our color view class. It's of func because it's the keyword we use for all methods inside Swiftland. And then it returns nothing because it's a void type. Let's go ahead and expand that out so we can see it. We have our basic structure right here. We're using the standard approach with logic. Even when using a simple logic code when I'm talking in computer science, I always like to start my logic test with parens, even if it's just a simple one that could be evaluated on its own, because if I ever want to add to it, it's just a quick little thing right there. So if it's clicked, returns true, and the default value, of course, of this is false. So if it's true, then I'm using the self.buttonColor equals .green. Now, in this case, self is talking about the color view instance, what we're working with right now. So I'm telling my current screen right here, make that button color, make it be green. Otherwise, if I fail that test, if clicked becomes false, then I want to go over here into self.buttonColor, and I want to assign it the value of .blue. Now, again, for the .yellow, .green, and .blue, you can change those to any of the named colors that exist inside the SwiftUI color spectrum, or you could even assign a specific value using numeric values for that if you want to as well. Totally on you. I just use these three colors because they're really quick and easy to see, and you can identify them quite quickly. Regardless of the logic on there in the click, whether we're setting it to green or blue, the next statement I want to have for every single time we do that, and this is how I can invert the value of it, I'm saying clicked is equal to exclamation point clicked, which means not. The exclamation point is the not operator, and that's how I'm going to say that whatever, if it was true, it becomes not true, which is false. If it was false, it becomes not false, which is true. So I'm inverting the values on that. Now, there are some simpler ways to make that happen, but this is a quick and easy explanation so you can easily see what we're doing, especially when we're starting out for computer science. We want to make it as quick and easy to see, and as standard sort of works for everything else, so you can easily see every single statement as we do it, one line per evaluation, so it makes it really easy to keep track of and not introduce new things. So update when it happens, if it's clicked, if it's true, we make it green. If clicked is false, however, we make it blue, and regardless of the choice, we automatically make click to be the opposite of what it was. So now we've got that update method is specified. Let's go take a look at the changes we have to make inside our body to make that happen. So I'll collapse that back down and reopen up the body. Now in the body, we're using a Z-stack for this. Remember, a Z-stack is how I make it so I can have some information right here, then right here, then right here, using the Z ordering or the Z-axis to see how those things will happen. Inside my Z-axis or my Z ordering, I have a random color, and I'm going to use the modifier in that to do edges ignore safe area.all, which will make it bleed all the way across the entire screen. Rather than simply going the top and bottom areas, I want it to be a full color match. And that's the way I like it. No big deal, but it's a race for there. In front of that on the Z stack, I have my V stacks, a vertical alignment of components going boop, 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 boop. So it makes it really easy to see, and it's just a nice little way. I'll most often use V stacks when I'm talking about layering things out because I'm going to do this, then this, then this, then this. And it makes sense when we're doing things if it's not in a menu type system. So let's open up the VStack as well for vertical stack. And as you can see, we still have that color project where we assigned a background color of purple. The foreground color is whatever returns back from that create random color. Then we have our middle text, our last text, and here's where we add the button. Now we're using the initializer for a button where it takes a string for the first parameter, and the second parameter is the reference to the method we're calling as part of its action. So in this case, the button's text is click with some question marks, and for the second parameter, its name is action, and we supply as a value for it the name of the method we're calling. Notice that I'm not using any parens after that, nor am I calling it within quotes, because I'm not passing it a string. I'm referring to the reference to that method right there. So that's how I can send that method when I call the action. If we're doing a much more complex action with this, if we're going to send a parameter or something like that, it might be a better idea to use a closure and use the other style of making it a button initializer. But for this simple thing, this works really well. Then on the button, I'm setting the background color for the button itself to be button color. And if I haven't clicked it, by default, it's going to be this lovely yellow color that's spelled out. I'm also modifying right here at the end of the VStack. I'm telling the VStack to have a background of create random color so I can randomly assign a color to the background of that. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at this to see how it looks, and then we'll see what happens as we actually run the app. Here we have the actual app itself running on the iPhone SE version. As you can see right here, we have a random color on the back of the Z end because it's listed first, so it's at the very far back of the Z index. We then have on top of that, we have our VStack, and that's where this component right here is. So I have my color project first on the top of the VStack, middle, last, and then the button itself. Notice that my color project, of course, has its own background color of purple listed right there. And its foreground happens to be, in this case, that's kind of a yellowish greenish color. No worries. Then on my text and middle and the non-part of the click button, where just the click button, its background is yellow, but everything that's just not part of the click button, all that background of the VStack, it has a background color of that random color, which in this case right here is that lovely soft blue. The background color of my button is yellow because I haven't done anything with it. And so now when I click on this, because click is false, it should change my color to blue. Yay! As you can see, all my random colors now also updated. My purple right here for the background of the text stays the same. However, every other color that can change, because as a reference to it of the create random color, automatically changes every time I click. And that's because whenever I run through the display inside SwiftUI, anything that's calculated like this is automatically regenerated. So it makes it so it rehappens over and over again. So I get lots of lovely color changes with it right here. And so every time I click, this alternates between green or blue based on the true or false value of that private state variable. However, all the other colors that change are happening randomly based on simply the result of that create random color call. So that's what we can do with that. So we can add a little bit of color and add an action to a button. So again, taking a quick review as to what we did. To make that button work, the first thing we did is we added a state variable for the button color, the one that we're going to actually reference as default, and then what we'll change it to. We also added a state variable for clicked, determining whether or not it has been clicked or not. Based on that state variable, we then have our lovely button initializer. We add that button to our VStack right here. We pass it the first parameter, which is the text to show on the button. And then the action is what method are we going to call when we click that button. I have attached to the background of that button a color. By default, it sets it for yellow. However, when I use that update method, based on that lovely use of the state variable right here of self.buttonColor, self talks about what exists right here in the color view. We have that right there. So based on if I click it, I'll change the button color to be green or blue. I could also add self.clicked right here on this if I want to. I'm just introducing it once though so we can see how that works. And so if clicked is true, I make it green. Otherwise, if clicked is false, I make it blue. And I'll alternate that back and forth between that as we have that happen. And so that's only changing right here on button color. I could even change button color to refer to these other things if I wanted to, or I could add another feature and make it so I could even add other features to go through that. One thing you might consider doing so you can make a project even more amazing is you can make it so you can have this color so it could cycle through a range of colors. Say, for example, you want to go through the order of the pride flag. You could have a color initializer, have a state variable, started off at 0 or 1, whichever number you want to start off with, and have it go through and cycle through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then for each color, separate that through the different colors of the rainbow, assign that value based on the result of that if block, and it'll go, oh, it's going to be this color. If it's 2, it's going to be this color. If it's 3, it's going to be this color. If it's 4, it's going to be this color. If it's 5, it's going to be this color. You can add that right there. Another thing you could look at doing is say, hey, I want to make it so I only go through the shades of the color I love the best. And that's something we'll be doing in another video as well, so you can take a look at that. But that's the quick way we can actually make some color using state and buttons. And again, all we have to do is have that lovely action method where we name the method we have as a parameter under the action method when we initialize the button, and we can do cool stuff with that. That's what we're doing today. Thanks again. Have a great day. Cheers.